My company fired me for attending my father's funeral, but I turned their cruelty into the foundation of an empire they'd begged to rejoin. My name is Amelia Brooks. I am 36 years old, and I spent 7 years of my life working at Ashford Freight Solutions, a mid-sized logistics company based in Denver, Colorado. During that time, I did not just build a career. I built a strong team where everyone knew they were respected and heard. We weathered the 2021 supply chain crisis together, handled the company's largest data migration without a single error, and achieved over 27% growth for 2 consecutive quarters. I used to believe that if I kept giving my best, my efforts would eventually be recognized. I was wrong. My father passed away suddenly on a March morning. He slipped while clearing snow from his driveway and hit his head on the frozen ground. I got the call from the hospital while I was in a meeting with the finance department about resource allocation for the Southwest region. I immediately asked to leave, informed my boss, Derek Hansen, the branch CEO, and sent in a request for 3 days of bereavement leave, attaching a note from the hospital. Derek's reply was short, understood. Take care of your family first. I never expected that. 3 days later, when I returned to the office, the first thing I would see on my computer screen was an email with a cold subject line, "Termination notice effective immediately." I clicked on the email. My heart pounded as I read the first line, "Amelia, please clear your desk and complete your exit paperwork with HR by 5 p.m. today." No words of sympathy, no meeting, just a blunt paragraph ending 7 years of dedication as if they had never happened. I had to reread it twice to make sure I was not imagining things. The reason was clearly stated in the attached file: failure to ensure presence during critical operational phase. I gave a soft laugh. So, attending my father's funeral was considered an unacceptable absence. I looked around the office where I had once stayed up all night with my team finishing the Carson project, where I had hung a group photo from our retreat in Aspen, a trip I had personally helped fund so everyone could go. Next to my monitor was a birthday card signed by every team member. Every detail reminded me of the years I had poured my heart into this job. No tears, no anger. I grabbed my phone, snapped a picture of the email, and sent it to my personal inbox. Then I shut down my computer, pulled a cardboard box from the cabinet, and began packing. It was a little after 8 in the morning, and the office was still quiet. I carefully wrapped the small succulent plant, a Christmas gift from my team last year. As I was removing the photo from its frame, Kara, head of operations, walked in, frowning. "Amelia, what's going on?" "I just got fired," I said calmly, though the bitterness crept into my voice. What? Because you took time off for your dad's funeral?" Her voice cracked. "That can't be. Derek approved it. Hey." I nodded. "He changed his mind. Or maybe he never really meant it." I did not blame Kara. She was in shock. While I had already begun to numb to the betrayal, I kept packing as other coworkers trickled in. Everyone was stunned. Some tried calling HR to verify. Jason, head of data analysis, slammed his hand on a desk. "They're insane. Nobody understands regional management like you do." I stayed quiet. The company's actions spoke louder than any words. When Derek showed up, standing stiffly in front of me in his crisp suit, avoiding my eyes, I simply said, "You don't need to explain. I understood everything the moment I read that email." He pressed his lips together as if he wanted to say something, but I turned away, not because I was weak, but because I knew. Sometimes silence says more than any accusation. I carried my box into HR, cradling the few remnants of my 7 years there. The office looked the same as usual, bright and humming, but somehow it felt unbearably cold. On a nearby desk sat a steaming coffee cup and a neatly stacked pile of documents, like nothing terrible had happened this morning. Amelia. "Oh no, it's true." Cynthia Rhodes, the new HR specialist from Portland, spoke so softly it was barely a whisper. She looked at me with genuine sympathy. I placed the box down on a chair. "I just need to finish the paperwork. Everything's clear now." Cynthia hesitated for a moment. I saw her glance toward the slightly open door before she whispered, "I found out this morning. You should know this decision. It was never discussed in the executive meeting. It was just an email Derek sent out at 11 p.m. last night. No one knew beforehand. Abruffer, I nodded. I was not surprised. That's why I came early. At least I can walk out on my own terms without security escorting me. Cynthia slid a folder across the desk. Termination form, confidentiality agreement, severance details. I skimmed it. They offered 2 weeks' pay and reminded me of a 4-month non-compete within a 250-mile radius. I raised an eyebrow. 4 months across the entire Western region? They really expect me to freeze my career over a personal vendetta? Cynthia sighed. Colorado law allows at-will termination. They're hiding behind that. But between us, you have a strong case. I did not answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone, reopened the termination email, and placed it gently on the table. Cynthia leaned in. Her expression changed immediately. Oh my gosh. No formal documentation, no warning, no legal review, just this. I nodded. Which is why I'm not making a scene. Everything's already in my hands. Cynthia bit her lip. She scribbled something quickly on a small piece of paper and slid it to me. This is the number of a labor attorney who helped me back in Oregon. If you need I took the slip of paper. I did not say anything, but my look was enough to thank her. As I walked out of HR, a few employees were waiting quietly in the hallway. No words were exchanged, but the way Jason lightly squeezed my shoulder, the handwritten note Kelsey, the intern I once mentored, slipped into my hand saying, "You've inspired me more than anyone here, choked me up more than any farewell speech." I stepped outside. It was still cold, with fresh snow from the night before blanketing the ground. The glass revolving door reflected my image, carrying a box, walking away from a building I had once considered my second home. Now it was just an office full of people I used to trust, and one man who destroyed everything. I placed the box on the passenger seat and started the engine. My phone buzzed. A text from Jason, "This is the worst joke in company history, and Kelsey, if you need anything, just say the word." Followed by Brent from Logistics, "Derek just called an emergency meeting. Someone from headquarters is here. Brofer." I did not reply. I kept my eyes straight ahead and gripped the steering wheel. I knew I was not going to look back, but I also knew this was not over. I was not going to sue. I did not need to shout or post a long rant online. I was going to do exactly what my father once taught me. When you get pushed into the water, do not panic and thrash around. Take a deep breath, look around, and swim toward where you want to go. I still remembered how he had taught me to stay strong against the current, and this time I would use that lesson on my own terms. That night, I sat alone in my small apartment on the south side of Denver, a cold cup of tea in my hand. I did not yet know what my next step would be, but when my phone screen lit up, everything started to change. Caller ID? Nathan Caldwell, Baruch. I blinked in disbelief. Nathan was the CEO of Stratosphere Logistics, one of Ashford's biggest competitors. We had first met at the Phoenix Supply Chain Conference nearly a year ago. I had been representing Ashford, presenting our team-developed regional analytics system. After the presentation, Nathan had shaken my hand and said, "If you ever get tired of your company, call me before you call anyone else." At the time, I just laughed, thinking he was being overly polite. But now, seeing his name pop up on my screen, I felt my heart skip a beat. I tapped the answer button. Amelia. His voice was deep and steady. "I just heard about what happened at Ashford. Word's been going around." I leaned back in my chair. News travels fast. It's not gossip, it's outrage. No one can believe they would do that to the person who helped them secure the Pacific Steel contract last year. I stayed silent. Nathan continued, "I'm not calling to offer sympathy. I'm calling to offer you a job." I sat up straight. "What do you mean? Stratosphere is expanding into the Western Mountain region. We need someone like you to lead the restructuring of our regional transportation network. The regional executive director position will open in 2 weeks, but if you agree, I'll expedite it." I took a deep breath. "I'm under a non-compete agreement." "Send me a scan," he replied without hesitation. "My legal team will review it within 48 hours. If there's any risk, we'll back you up." Stratosphere doesn't abandon talented people over vague fine print. I looked out the window where the snow was slowly melting under the streetlights. Maybe, for the first time in days, it felt like a new door had opened. The next morning, I met with Julian Ross, the labor attorney Cynthia had recommended. His office was on the third floor of an old red brick building, but inside it was bright, spotless, and meticulously organized. Julian skimmed through the contract, frowning after less than 10 minutes. "This clause is way too broad," he said, pointing to the line about no employment in the same industry within 250 miles for 4 months. "They can't force you out of your career just because of a messy breakup." "Brf, I need to be absolutely sure," I said. "I won't let anyone use this clause to stop me from moving forward." Julian nodded. "Ashford fired you without going through any disciplinary process, without documenting any violations. More importantly, they approved your leave, then used your absence against you. With these factors, it'll be hard for them to win if a dispute arises." I exhaled, feeling a sense of control for the first time in days. "So, if I accept the new job at Stratosphere, you have a very strong chance of winning if they sue? But honestly," Julian added, "I doubt Ashford would risk dragging this into the open." That afternoon, I called Nathan back. "I accept the offer," I said, "but on one condition." Let's hear it." I want to build my own team. If any of my frolic colleagues apply, I want them to be fairly considered." There was a brief pause, then Nathan chuckled softly. "Fair consideration? If they're as good as you, I don't need fair. I need them. Yesterday." I smiled. The feeling of being trusted again made me feel alive. When I signed the official job offer, a salary 35% higher, the authority to build my department, and a generous signing bonus, I knew a new had truly begun. During my first week at Stratosphere Logistics, the energy in the office was electric. No fake politeness, no suspicious glances like back at Ashford. Here, people actually listened to one another. I had my own office, but I spent most of my time out in the open workspace, talking with the tech, dispatch, and operations teams one by one. I wanted them to know I was more than just a name in an email. Yet, while I was settling into my new environment, messages from the old team kept flooding my phone. Jason, who used to manage the data systems for me at Ashford, texted, "Amelia, everything's falling apart. They can't find your updated shipping route plans." Derek's scrambling to hold on to clients but doesn't even know where to start. Then Kelsey, Wilson Group, just sent a letter postponing their contract signing. They said they want to wait for the former point person to return. I did not respond immediately. Part of me felt sympathy for the old team, but another part saw the truth clearly. Ashford's losses were not because I left. It was because of how they treated people like me. 3 days later, I met with Jason and Kelsey at a cafe downtown. They sat across from me, their eyes full of a mix of disappointment and determination. "You were right," Jason began. "Right after you left, Derek tried to force someone new into your role to keep Wilson, but nobody in the team would cooperate." Kelsey nodded. "No one understands the system you built. They thought an Excel sheet was enough to run an entire shipping line." I leaned back. "Have you both thought this through? If you leave, there's no going back." "We don't want to go back," Jason said without hesitation. "We want to go with someone we trust." I looked at them for a long moment. They did not say it out loud, but I knew there were more who felt the same. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, 4 more members from my old Ashford team handed in their resignations. Each one left a polite but clear thank you email. They no longer trusted the current management. Ashford panicked. Monday morning, while I was in a finance meeting at Stratosphere, I received a strange email from Olivia Chambers, the deputy HR director at Ashford, someone who had barely spoken to me before. Subject, urgent, regarding the Northwest Regional team situation. The body of the email was simple but tense. "We would like to discuss the recent wave of core staff departures. This situation is severely impacting performance and strategic partner trust." I replied with a single line, "Perhaps your company should reconsider how you treated the person who built that team." Later that afternoon, Jason sent me a screenshot of Ashford's internal system. The automated dispatch system had crashed, and they were forced to delay shipments to 3 major clients. The next day, I heard that Henderson Manufacturing, one of the clients I had cultivated, had officially terminated their contract. They did not specify the reason, just noted instability in management. Day by day, Ashford seemed to spiral into an uncontrollable crisis. I did not feel happy, not even a little. Instead, I felt justice was quietly being restored. That weekend, after my old team officially became Stratosphere employees, I hosted a small dinner at my home. No wine, no speeches, just laughter, relief, and a sense of freedom after years of being under pressure. Jason raised his soda glass and smiled. We lost an old house, but we found ourselves again. Abraham. I looked around the table. They were not just followers, they were people brave enough to leave a place that no longer valued them. I knew this time I was not just leading a team, I was leading a transformation. That Monday morning, while reviewing a new route optimization plan for the Idaho region with the tech team, my phone rang. A strange number with a Denver area code. I answered. A calm, clear voice on the other end. Amelia, this is Marcia Given, the new regional director at Ashford Freight Solutions. I sat up straight. The name Marcia was not familiar. The person who previously held that role was Richard Flynn, someone notorious for dodging internal issues. Clearly, Ashford had gone through bigger changes than I thought. Keybrick, hello, Miss Given, I said steadily. How can I help you? First, she hesitated. I want to sincerely apologize on behalf of the new leadership for how your departure was handled. I've reviewed the entire situation and honestly, I'm shocked. Abraham. I stayed silent, not out of surprise. I had heard enough belated apologies in my life. We understand you have every reason not to want to hear this, Marcia continued, but I hope you'll consider an offer to return to Ashford as Regional Executive Director for the Western Division with a 20% salary increase and full authority to rebuild your team. I let out a short laugh sharp enough to cut through the formal tone. Do you realize I had to pack my things and walk out of that building like a stranger just because I did the right thing for my father's funeral? Abraham, I heard a sigh from the other end. I know, I can't change what happened, but I can change what happens next. Hebrew. No, Miss Given, I replied, my voice calm but firm. What I needed was kindness when I lost someone. Not a job offer wrapped in money and titles just because Ashford is losing clients. Abraham, she stayed silent. I continued, I'm not coming back to fix mistakes I didn't make. I've chosen a new path. One where the people who stood by me are valued. And I have no regrets. We're willing to raise the offer, Marcia said quickly. 30% salary increase, stock options, full authority over the 3-year strategic plan for the Western region. I glanced toward the conference room where Jason was presenting the results of the new delivery process restructuring in Spokane. I saw my former teammates, confident, heard, working without fear. Abraham's time, I answered firmly. It's not about the money, Marcia, it's about principles. After a long pause, she said slowly, I understand, but please know the offer remains open. I hope someday Ashford truly understands why I left, I said. And if that day ever comes, it won't start with a negotiation call. It'll start with learning how to treat employees with compassion, not policies. After the call, I stepped out onto the 8th floor balcony. The morning sky was a brilliant blue, sunlight pouring through the windows, reflecting the start of something irreversible. I had closed the old door and had no reason to look back. Later that afternoon, I received a message from Barbara, the former HR staffer from Ashford who sat across from me the day they asked me to sign my termination papers. The message was short. Derek Hansen has been officially terminated. The board launched a full internal investigation. I read the words without feeling joy or surprise. It was simply confirmation of what I had believed from the beginning. Anything built on carelessness will eventually collapse because of it. That evening, our team gathered at a small Italian restaurant near the Stratosphere office. After appetizers, Jason pulled out a chocolate mousse cake with a message piped in fresh cream to the leader who chose integrity over ego. I did not need to give a speech. I just smiled, looked at each person around the table and said, We didn't leave Ashford for revenge. We left to live according to the values we deserve. Hebrew. 3 months after I declined Ashford's offer, I was officially promoted to Executive Vice President for the Northwest region of Stratosphere Logistics. My new office was on the 12th floor, overlooking the Cascade Mountains, where the sunsets bathed the sky in gold. But what made me proud was not the view. It was the people building a stronger, more transparent, more human foundation with me. Jason became head of operations. Kelsey took over as regional supply chain supervisor. Brent, once quietly working behind the scenes, now led strategic analysis. None of them had flashy titles before, but when given the chance, they proved themselves more than any resume ever could. We worked tirelessly, not because we had to, but because we believed. This time, we were building something real. Under the leadership of our new team, Stratosphere not only retained major partners, but reclaimed 3 out of 4 core clients once loyal to Ashford, including Wilson Group, Henderson Manufacturing, and most recently, Tidewell Equipment, a major player in the construction industry. At a quarterly meeting at Stratosphere's Seattle headquarters, CEO Nathan Caldwell announced a number that left the entire room silent. Northwest regional revenue is up 34% year-over-year. Profit margins improved by 18%, and employee satisfaction is at its highest since Stratosphere was founded. He turned to me, smiling. Amelia, your region isn't just leading, it's becoming the model for others to follow. Thank you for turning adversity into opportunity not just for yourself, but for the entire system. I did not say much, just gave a small nod, because I knew this was not just my victory. It was the voice of trust being rebuilt day by day. A few weeks after the meeting, an article appeared in Logistics Today, a respected industry journal. The headline was short but telling, "When loyalty is not repaid, Stratosphere rises from Ashford's mistakes." The piece clearly documented the exodus of key personnel from Ashford and Stratosphere's remarkable rebound. No names were mentioned, but everyone in the industry knew exactly who and what it was about. That same day, Barbara, the former HR staffer, sent me a message, "I've never been prouder of you." I simply replied, "Thank you for that little slip of paper that day. It opened the path for me." Around the same time, Summit Edge, Ashford's parent company, announced the closure of 2 regional offices and its full withdrawal from the Idaho market. A wave of clients had shifted to competitors, citing management instability and poor staffing decisions. I did not feel triumphant, but I did feel at peace. That night, our team celebrated in the office after landing a new contract with Cascade Materials, a client we had once lost back at Ashford. They came to us this time not just for better prices or faster service, but because of something their CEO said at the signing, "We want to work with people who don't abandon each other when things get tough." I raised my glass of sparkling water, looking around at the familiar faces, Jason telling a story, Kelsey helping an intern pick a dessert, Brent still hunched over a laptop finalizing a report. They had changed, or rather, they had returned to who they truly were. I stepped out onto the office balcony once more, taking a deep breath. The breeze was cool but gentle. The lights from downtown reflected off the glass, a city seemingly waving back. I thought of my father. If he were alive, he would have asked me the same old question, "Do you regret it, Amelia?" And this time I could smile and answer, "No, Dad, not for a single second." One late November afternoon, right after wrapping up a virtual meeting with the Portland team, my phone rang. The caller ID was so familiar I almost laughed. Barbara Kent, the former HR employee from Ashford, the one who quietly slipped me the labor attorney's number the morning I was forced out. "Barbara," I answered, "I was just about to call you after seeing the news this morning." Amelia," her voice was slightly choked but composed. "I just wanted to tell you something and to say thank you about Summit Edge's acquisition." "Burka," I asked directly. "That news spread faster than flu season?" Barbara chuckled softly. "Yes, but that's not the only reason I'm calling." Then she hesitated. "I left Ashford 2 weeks ago, voluntarily, not pushed out. And before I left, I retrieved something. It's small, but I think it belongs to you." The next day, when I arrived at my office, a small package was waiting on my desk, carefully wrapped in craft paper with neat handwriting on the outside. A gift from an old place for a new one that's blooming. I opened it and froze. It was the little cactus, the one I had kept on my desk for 7 years at Ashford, the one I had wrapped in newspaper the morning I was fired and then forgotten, too stunned to think of anything but my wounded pride. Now it had grown. New shoots stretched out, vibrant and green. A living sign of survival after months of abandonment. I placed it on the windowsill of my office where there was sunlight, air, and me, someone who no longer bowed her head. That afternoon, an article from Business Northwest confirmed the inevitable Summit Edge Freight Solutions had been acquired by Meridian Logistics for less than a third of its original valuation. The reason? Severe personnel crisis, loss of client trust, and violations in leave and internal management policies. I sat still for a few seconds, not from happiness, but from the feeling that the final door had truly closed. Derek Hansen's name also appeared in the investigation report, suspended for abuse of authority, violation of termination procedures, and failing to notify senior leadership of major staffing decisions. Barbara later texted me, "I heard Derek's applying for unemployment. He claims he followed internal procedures but can't explain what those procedures were." I did not feel satisfaction, no bitterness, just a sense that a missing piece had finally clicked into place. That night, our team gathered at my house. Jason brought homemade lasagna he had learned from an online cooking class. Kelsey brought hand-pressed fruit juice. Brent arrived late, still double-checking the latest data reports. Once everyone was settled, I placed the little cactus on the table. "Recovered from an old place," I said. "It was left behind the day I walked out of Ashford, but now it survived." "Abrui." The room went silent for a few moments. Then Kelsey whispered, "Just like all of us." "Abrar." I looked around. These people who watched me walk out through a slammed door were now sitting in my home, part of a journey I had not planned but one that meant everything. Abruf. I raised my glass. To what we overcame, to what we are building, and most importantly, to choosing kindness, even when the world didn't offer it first. Brr. We clinked glasses in the warm light. Laughter filled the room, the perfect prelude to a brand new chapter. One early winter morning, I drove out of downtown Spokane toward a small lake called Clearwater about an hour away. The sky was gray, the fog heavy, but I knew exactly where I was headed. The place where my father used to take me fishing every summer, where he taught me the greatest lesson of my life. You do not win by stepping on others. You win by standing strong when others fall. I parked, pulled on a thick coat, and walked to the shore. The lake was clear and still like a mirror. It was the same old spot where I used to set up a tiny folding chair, where my father would tie fishing lines and sit quietly for hours. He never said much, but every action taught me, move slowly, endure, and never bow to hardship. I sat down. No fishing rod this time, just a small notebook in hand. I opened the first page and reread the words I had written during my first meeting at Stratosphere. I didn't come here to replace anyone. I came to prove that a better workplace is possible, and it has to start with us. Abraher. I smiled. At 36, I had been shoved out of my old company with a cold email, but from that moment, I had found the right path. I did not destroy Ashford. They destroyed themselves by treating people carelessly. As for me, I simply walked forward, carrying determination and those who believed in me. At Stratosphere, we did not measure loyalty by overtime hours. We measured it by how we supported each other in hard times. No one feared losing their job just for taking leave to care for family. When one of my employees, Hannah, lost her mother, the entire office wrote sympathy cards and chipped in to help with funeral costs. No policy mandated it. We just understood what it felt like to be left alone during the worst time. A few weeks ago, during an internal survey, the results made me tear up. 95% of employees believe management truly cares about them as people, not just as numbers. That was not just a statistic. It was the answer to everything. The breeze from the lake stirred the notebook pages. I caught them gently and laughed when I spotted a blank page near the end with a small note I had once written, "Build, not revenge." Yes, I did not need to tear down Ashford to prove anything. Building something better, kinder, stronger was the loudest answer of all. No challenges, no attacks, just results undeniable and clear. I stood up and looked out over the lake again. There was no anger left, only gratitude. Gratitude for not crumbling when hurt. Gratitude for my father teaching me to stand like stone in the current. And gratitude that, in a fast, harsh world, I had kept my heart whole. I pulled out my phone and texted Jason, "Schedule the next quarterly strategy meeting. And don't forget to include the new hires feedback session." I want to hear from them. Briefly, he replied right away. Got it, boss. Oh, by the way, the Portland team just sent a photo. They hung up your picture in the common area. They're calling it The Builder. Brooke. I laughed. That title did not need a medal or a golden frame. It just needed a place. A place where people knew that when they walked in, they were not seen as tools, but as part of something bigger. I glanced down at the watch my father left me, then turned back toward my car. On the drive back to the city, I did not feel like a winner. I felt like someone who had stayed true, and that was enough. My story is not about revenge. It is about standing up after being knocked down and choosing to rebuild with determination and kindness. I once walked away from a place that forgot the value of people. But from that wound, I created an environment where everyone is heard, valued, and never left alone in their most vulnerable moments. My greatest success is not the title I earned. It is making others believe that kindness still has a place in this world.